Local players are back. Corey, have you gotten any sleep since Friday night?
Taking a nap today. That was nice. Normally don't get many naps. So when they present themselves, they're usually really handy. So, but yeah, Friday night was super late. We opened up the high school football season in our area and in our state.
Well, but it wasn't just high school. You had two games.
Yeah. It wasn't just high school. Got a little taste of West Monroe, and then when I was able to get home, I had to turn on the Louisiana Tech at BYU football game. So it was a lengthy Friday for sure. An interesting way, a long way to kick off the weekend. What about yourself?
Well, I've slept fine. Although it did take some time to wind down last night after I returned home from a homecoming to remember at Old Malone Stadium, and we will get into that later in the show. But I think today we're going to start with preps, and we'll probably be a preps focused on episode 4. Wow, this is our 4th one doing this. Mainly because there were some scores that came through the Twitter machine Friday night. Scores that defied the mind. Those that you kind of looked and stared at. And honestly, it's kind of an optical illusion. You look at it and you read it the way you thought it would be, as generally the game of football would dictate. But it was not. We'll get to the bigger of those after we touch on Corey's Friday night down at Rebel Stadium. So we'll start there. West Monroe, 16-0 against Karen Crow. The old Crow Bears came up here, and not only did they hand the Rebels their first home loss since Shea Patterson and Calvary Baptist did it to them in 2014, this was the first time they had been shut out in a regular season, dating back to a 2005 game against our friends over in Longview and the Lobos. So, Corey, where do we start here?
Yeah, I mean, as the game went on Friday night, I think in the last 3 years, including Friday night's game, I've probably covered somewhere between 20 to 22 football games at Rebel Stadium during my stint here covering sports. And, as the game progressed, I just found myself thinking about, some of the other games against some of the more, prominent high school football programs that have come through, and maybe not even necessarily, teams here in Louisiana. They've had Ridgeway from Memphis, Tennessee come in. They've had Noxubee County a couple times come in from Mississippi to play, and teams that had a lot of really, a lot of 4- and 5-star kids on their rosters. And so I was thinking back to some of these games that I've seen West Monroe play, and I found myself thinking that I don't know if I've ever seen a West Monroe opponent come, not only just play them anywhere, but come into their house and be more prepared and less intimidated by all the bells and whistles at Rebel Stadium and all the, the things that come with, lining up and playing a football game over there. I don't know if I've seen a team more ready to play West Monroe than I did that Karen Crow Bears team Friday night. West Monroe, obviously, with that veer attack, they're predicated on the run, and there was not a single hole all night long that West Monroe had to run through. They stopped them. First play from scrimmage, I believe, was like a negative 3-yard run by running back D. Williams, and we didn't know it at the time, obviously, but that first play of the game was the tone setter. It literally told the tale of how the game was going to go, and Karen Crow, they actually opened up the game on offense, and, West Monroe's defense was getting ready to pitch a 3-and-out, and Karen Crow lined up to punt, and there was a roughing the kicker penalty. And that was what started the snowball, and I think West Monroe ended up having 8 penalties for, I think, more than 70 yards, Friday night. And another one of those early in the fourth quarter, I believe, or late third quarter, was a 12-man on the field, which is something that you don't see a West Monroe team do.
No, sloppy stuff. No. pre-snaps, where it's a rarity.
Yeah, more false starts than I have seen out of a West Monroe offense, and again in my 3+ years of covering that team, and I know we can attribute a lot of this to, COVID-19 and the different type of off season, the different type of training that these players and these teams have had to go through. It's been a challenge to get everyone on the field, to get everyone on the same page with each other, and with an extended off season, like that, these teams and these kids, they get tired of hitting each other, and so they get so amped up to actually play a team that's wearing a different color that you have some of these things that happen, but I just that Carrot Crow team is good, man.
Yeah, like maybe you weren't aware, but they play some good football down at Crow Dome. They've not had kind of the same horses that they're used to having a couple of years in recent years, but that's a tradition-packed program in this area. They've won state championships. I think them and West Monroe have actually played against each other for state championships before. So
yeah, I believe I was talking with their coach Tony Corville after the game, and he pointed over to the West Monroe state championship sign and said, 2 of those years we played them in the dome for a state championship, and they beat us both times. So I mean, these are 2 programs that do have some history, with each other, and it's a well respected tradition amongst both teams, and for West Monroe, it's got to start up front on the offensive line again. With them being run predicated, run first with the veer. I mean, they've got to figure out a way to to get their 5 offensive linemen to play better, because as I look at their schedule, Neville's going to give them fits. That Neville West Monroe game is going to be really interesting this year. I think Neville's got the horses to really be in that ball game. And then, of course, as you not
well, I was going to say, you bring up Neville. We'll get to Neville here in a minute, since I was out there. But to me, if I'm West Monroe, I'm looking at Ruston like Clubber Lang.
Yeah, that to me, watching West Monroe Friday night, and then obviously seeing what Ruston was able to do out at Airline High School on Friday night too. I mean, it seems like the Bearcats hadn't missed a beat from last year. A team that was this close to get to
getting Zachary.
I believe it was the semifinals, right? They were this close to the semifinals, and I think Ruston, man, it could be the year, and when I was doing my season preview stuff on West Monroe, I went over there, and that was one of the things that I talked with the coaching staff at West Monroe. I was like, look, you're having to replace a lot of guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and you've got a Ruston team that is going to have some really significant key players back at really important positions on the field. And I mean, is this a year where you're concerned about that Ruston team? And of course, I was told, well, we won't know, and we have to really figure out what our team looks like, and I get that, and that's I know
one game at a time.
Yeah, one game at a time. I know that's coach speak, but yeah, like it's coach speak, but when you take in all the COVID-19 stuff, like it actually fits, But you got to think, like, okay, if you want to know what your team looks like, well, what you guys saw on Friday night, I mean, there is infinite room for improvement, and you've got 7 weeks to get it better before you have to travel down I-10 and go to the Hoss and play the Bearcats. Because I go ahead and tell you, I know Jared Ball and his club is they're probably salivating at that regular season finale game at their place against West Monroe. This could be the year that they could get that district title, snap that streak that West Monroe's had for the last 24 years.
Well, they'll be going down I-20, not I-10, unless the Bearcats move to New Iberia or something. But I think we got to bookend this West Monroe discussion with the other score I was alluding to earlier, the one that really floored all of us in the state and probably even across the region. General Trass beat Evangel. Beat them 10 in Shreveport.
I haven't figured it out.
Well, I did a little detective work, as I'm wont to do when I see something like that come across, and I called a few folks in Shreveport, some colleagues, some people I trust, mutual acquaintances, friends of ours, and You know, the good times might be gone at Evangel. I mean, you never say never, but they're dealing with some issues right now. Enrollment's down, contributions are down, which two things that will kill any private school.
Absolutely.
You kind of look at how they got there. I mean, well, for one, you know, with Calvary Baptist being around, and them and Evangel have kind of have coexisted for a while now, but it's rare that one of them is really good. Is that both of them are really good at the same time? Usually one of them's really good, and the other's average to not so good, because there's just not enough kids to go around, and that may be what it is. The other thing too, and this is a joke that we used to make in the All-State meeting all the time when I started doing them, because it would tickle me every time somebody would put an Evangel kid up for All-State. It would always start out with, well, he came over there from Captain Tree or somewhere like that. So I think the other thing that's affected Evangel is those public schools in Bossier and Caddo Parish, the airlines, the Captain Shreves, the Parkways, folks like that. They really stepped their game up.
Bentons have gotten better too.
Exactly. They've really stepped it up as far as, trying to build something, build competitive football programs and be good. And these kids now realize they don't have to go to Evangel to compete for championships anymore. They can make deep runs at their home schools. So you look at those, and also West Monroe and Evangel are going to play this week. This has a very, I mean, that was a joke we were making. What, this ain't 2000 anymore. It's got a very, I don't know, and maybe it's gone the way as like Tennessee, Florida, and Florida State, Miami when it comes to college games. I don't know, because I also looked some stuff up thanks to our boy Ray Butler over at 14 Productions. If you don't have any question at all about high school football in the state, you can get on their website and look. You will find it. I crunched some things. I pulled out some stuff for you. All right, and I'm gonna read these to you right now. Okay, over a 6-year span, from 99 to 2004. Or 6th season, I should say. Neville, God, I'm still on this Neville thing, man. It's been a week. Evangel and West Monroe played for the state championship in Class 5A 4 times. And also in 5 of those 6 seasons, either Evangel or West Monroe was the state champion. It was no one else. There was also so that's 99. Evangel beats West Monroe by 6 points to win. 01 through 01 and 02, Evangel does it to him again. And then in 04, Evangel beats him by a point. And then there's also a semifinal matchup in 2003 where Evangel beat him. Through that time, between both schools combined, you're talking 7 All-State MVPs and 41 first-team All-State selections. So we running them through there. Blue chippers, talent, stars galore. And, West Monroe, still some good pieces over there. I mean, talent's never their issue. They're going to have to grow up what they got, obviously. And they've got some things to sort out, because when you're not good on the offensive line, there's really nothing you can do to fix that other than practice reps and, plugging the right guys in the right holes. But I want to know I want to see this Evangel team come out Friday night. I want to know, what are we working with now? But I mean, where has Brock Berlin and Byron Dawson and Chase Pittman and all these people gone? I mean, I guess there are other schools in Caddo, Bossier, like we mentioned, but it's just wow. I mean, we were talking what we.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about last year. Evangel comes over last year, and they have I believe it's Chapin, right, or is it Shoppin? I can't remember the kid's last name.
Chapin, the quarterback.
Yeah, Chapin, Blake Chapin. That's now, last I heard, he signed with Arizona State. So I mean, it's not like it was a gradual drop off, right? Like they had some studs last year.
Yeah, even before that,
last year.
Yeah, even before that, you're talking Dalvin Cotton, Micah Baskerville were there. They actually won a state championship in 2015. It's not been that long. And that was funny. That was the year that they played Allen, Texas, and Neville back to back. But by the end of the year, Evangel was playing as well as any team in this state. Mm-hmm. So it's just wow. Have the mighty.
Yeah, I mean, just that dramatic of a drop off is mind-boggling, because especially on the select side, right? You don't see this happen. Like this is a rarity to see that drastic of a drop off in literally 1 year's time.
You haven't seen it, but I will throw this at you too. There's some public school coaches that will make the argument, and one of the reasons they really supported the split, other than it was easier to win football games for them, was that the split would have an adverse effect on private schools because if they're separate playoff brackets, then kids will be less likely to go over there and will stay home and play in the public schools because as it is easier for them to win a championship in a split format, and it would cut down on their enrollment drastically. Maybe that's happened. I mean, the Captain Shreve example is there, but let's move on. Let's move on to Neville. But before we do, offer us a prediction for Evangel West Monroe Friday night.
I think we will see an improved West Monroe team. I think we'll see a team that will probably be a little agitated, and I think
a little frothy.
Yeah, they're going to be frothing, right? I think you and I talked, I believe it was yesterday, and I said that, look, again, they have the ingredients. The defensive line is still good with Aiden Balott and Aiden Swanner. These kids, they were all over the field on Friday night. I think this is going to be a game where the defense is gonna lead the way. I think this offense is still probably a couple more weeks away from really sort of trying to take the front end of leading this team. I think the offense is going to lean on this defense for a couple more weeks. I don't see West Monroe scoring a ton of points on Friday night against Evangel. My prediction is going to be 22-6 West Monroe. I think, like I said, maybe D. Williams can get going in the backfield. If they did have some success with running the straight up option on Friday night. They hit a couple big runs with Williams, not running between either off center or off tackle or somewhere along the line. They out wide is where they were able to find some success. So I think West Monroe kind of hang their hat on that a little bit on Friday night, and I think they'll be able to score some points. Of the year.
Right. Well, now to the game I was at Friday night. I watched the birth of the Jeff Tannehill era out at Bill Ruppel Stadium when Leesville came up and played Neville. And
congrats on Tanny on the first win.
The first of hopefully many. I'll say my first kind of observation from that game was I was pleasantly surprised by how clean it was, because I expected to see just some slop early on, not just from Neville, but from everybody, just because we're talking about practice time in the era of COVID and how that's all been slowed down, and you just haven't had enough time to get the necessary reps you need to put a regular product on the field, especially in special teams. But all that was good. Timothy Bird carried the ball 4 times. 2 of them were for touchdowns. He actually busted a 78-yard run on the very first play from scrimmage. And, Neville ran for about 361 yards between Bird and A.J. Allen, who's got a chance to be really, really good. We've been saying that, his whole career. He's a junior now, but I think he's, really going to put it together. And then Brett Badiford, his first start at the quarterback, was efficient both running and throwing. The defense the defense had about 3 sacks, forced 4 turnovers. They gave up some yards, but they were real stubborn in the red zone, and Leesville didn't score until late into the 4th quarter. But I will say this too for Leesville: I don't think they're a bad football team. I really don't. They had a good plan, and they kind of shocked Neville with what they did early because they came out throwing, and that's not what they expected. But they adjusted to it. I think Leesville was just kind of overwhelmed by the speed. You don't get a lot of that in Sinlaw, not like that. And it gave them problems. So all in all, it made for a good Friday night for the Neville Nation. They enjoyed themselves, and they will then travel to the aforementioned Haas Garrett Stadium this Friday night to play Ruston, where we're gonna have a bird and a bull going at it.
Bringing a bird to a bullfight.
Travian Hargrove, speaking of big numbers, 6 carries, 157 yards, 3 touchdowns, and that was from like a quarter and a half because he came out of the game with an injury. He's supposed to have an MRI done this weekend, and they're going to get the results on it hopefully Monday or Tuesday. So just based upon what he told our colleague Jimmy Watson out in Shreveport, he feels good like he's going to be able to play. But we'll see.
Okay.
I hope so, just because I want to see it. What he can do against this Neville defense, and how much they'll improve too after one outing against Leesville, because I'm sure some of the stuff that Leesville was doing, some stuff in the eye, some runs, and Jared Ball's going to see that, and Jared's a good football coach, and he's going to have something to scheme for that. So that'll be a good battle of the wits. It'll also be Tannehill's first taste of this rivalry as a head coach. It's one of the oldest in the state. They've played every year since Neville opened in 1931.
Wow.
And I'm glad that, we were kind of able to figure that out so they can play again this year, because COVID put that in doubt, because it's been the opener ever since they've been in separate classifications.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Looks like they're going to get this one in. As far as
what you think the key matchup is in that game next Friday night?
I think it's Bull and Ruston's offensive line against Neville's front seven, and how they handle that. Because this is going to be, depending on playoffs, and there's always the chance of Neville and Carr hooking up again when it comes to that. As of now, this could be the best team Neville plays all year. And we're both that high on Ruston right now, and hopefully that'll come through. I really think it will, with the talent they have. So it's going to come down to that. And Brett Batterford didn't. They threw it some, but they were never really in a situation where they needed to throw it. Sure. I guess you'd think the one time they did was right before the half, and they went 95 yards, and he made some good throws there, and they took about 4 minutes off the clock. It was just precision drive. So, but this may be a week where they need him to air it out, or going to need that passing game to to win. So we'll see. Some more quick hits and prep stuff. OCS played a really good Gina team, a really physical Gina team, I should say. I think Gina's got a chance to be pretty good this year. Just looking at the box score is interesting, because Gina actually outgained them and had the edge in a lot of statistical categories. But Gina didn't have number 11, and that was the biggest difference in the game, was what Hunter Herring was able to do. And then staying in Class 1A, Sterlington went out to Oak Grove, and Tigers got the better of them 14-12. Ron Creighton had a big game, 130-some yards, a couple touchdowns. And that's a big statement win for Oak Grove coming out. And we're in a situation now, I'm looking at it, we might have the two best teams in Class 1A sitting right here. Calvary Baptist over in Shreveport is going to say something about it, but I like our chances with the Eagles and the Tigers.
And hey, we had it last year, and I don't see why we don't have it again this year. Again, I know you and I talked about it. I believe it was last week on this show about, man, you lost Keenan Caldwell, you lost Bert Hale on the defensive line. How do you replace that kind of production and those kids with their size? And when you hold a Sterlington team to 12 points, and I get it. I know there was a lot of turnover there on the offensive side of the ball for them. So I know that it's going to be a work in progress for Lee Doty and his bunch.
Right.
But still holding a Sterlington team to 12 points is huge.
Yeah, it is. And I'm with you. I think Sterlington will get better as this goes. There's so many new faces. I'm trying to crunch the numbers. I may remember this off the top of my head. Could be off, but between Hayes Crockett and Jordan Townsend and Dallas Rieger, that was
like 75% of their offense, right?
Yeah, it was well over 3,000 yards and 48 touchdowns. So that was it. That's what you're replacing. And the coaches love Grant Manger, the new quarterback. He'll settle in, and he's going to be coached at a high level. Zach Crane stuff. He'll play fullback and tailback, and they'll go from there. The defense, to win a 2-point game like that, 14-12. They appear to be, formidable, and we'll get some things shored up they need to shore up too. But all right, Corey, take us through Tech, I guess, because I'll be honest, when I saw the line come out, and it was BYU favored by 20-some points, my first thought was, Tech's got more speed than they do or should, and Smoke Harris scored one touchdown, so it would be that. But then I remembered watching the little bit of BYU I've seen this year, especially on both lines of scrimmage. then it just kind of clicked with me like, oh no, this is, there's going to be problems, and it was.
Yeah, I think it's, to me, the biggest thing that sticks out is just the discrepancy in efficiency between BYU's defensive line and how Louisiana Tech's offensive line was attempting to handle BYU's front. I mean, when you only run for 70 something yards, I think it was 73 yards rushing that I think Louisiana Tech had. They only averaged 2.5 yards per carry. Obviously, from an offensive balance standpoint, you basically don't have it. You know, obviously, when you're playing a team that's above you in terms of talent and stature as well. I mean, when you can't move the ball by running, and you have to sit back and you have to attempt to throw the ball. I mean, you're going to find yourself in situations where you're going to turn the ball over. You're going to find yourself in third and long distances, which are very hard to pick up against a defense as good as BYU's. I mean, they held Navy to what they held Navy. I believe it was 3 points, right? And then they only give up 7 to Troy, giving up 10 points through 2 games. And now they give up 14 to Louisiana Tech. I mean, it's one of the best defenses in the country right now from when you put the full body of work together and what they've been able to accomplish. Yeah, a lot of people would make the argument, oh, well, it's 3 group of 5 schools. But what you got to take into account is how they beat these things, especially the Navy game in the opener. And I know, Navy talked about how they didn't practice tackling, which is crazy to me, but you still hold the triple option to what they were able to do, and you control the ball and time of possession in that game, something that Navy usually does every week. I mean, it's been impressive what BYU has been able to do. I mean, Zach Wilson kid, I mean, he throws for 325 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, this kid he's putting together an early season Heisman campaign. What his chances are with them only playing 8 games and the level of competition that they'll play as a whole, I don't really know if he'll be a top 5 Heisman Trophy finisher, but the kid's putting his name in the hat early on at least.
Well, and that's something that may be similar to what I was thinking about as far as how we're going to do with playoff this year in college football. And I guess the Heisman similar because, is there going to be a requirement for how many games you have to play? Because I feel like that's pretty important. And especially, how that's going to affect the other power conferences of the Big Ten and the Pac-12 get going. And are they just going to be able
the Pac-12 are only playing 7 games.
Yeah, and are you going to be able to rattle off 7 or 8 games without some kind of COVID-related stoppage? Really doubt it, because you're introducing another element into the bubble, and that's just going to happen. So it's going to be interesting how we do all this, because I don't know that there's really a good answer. And yeah, I always make the joke, and it's true, college football entire history is built on split national championships, but this is one where you at least have to have some sort of a coherent plan that you are pretending to live up to how you will do this. And I just don't know how this is going to work, other than I fully expect that G5 teams will get the shaft as always. There will always be a way to get that done. But
oh yeah, no doubt.
Anyway, who does Tech have this week?
Tech has the UTEP Miners. 2 weeks removed. It'll be 2 weeks removed from them coming to Monroe and knocking off the Warhawks. So the UTEP.
I've seen them play football.
I believe it's homecoming for Louisiana Tech, but during the age of COVID-19, what does homecoming even mean? No one knows. Are they
going
home because everyone can't come home?
I was saying, are we going to take that literally? Is it going to be a homecoming as in staying at the house? I mean, that's what I would venture
celebrate on the couch.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that'll be as good as UTEP looked against ULM. We'll see. We'll see what they. In fact, what did UTEP play this week?
I do not know, but
I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to show our preparedness, and it's up on the phone right now, and see if the Miners were indeed on a football field.
For my mental health, I usually stray away from Googling UTEP Miners. That's
the Miners did not play this week. They will have 2 weeks to play for Louisiana Tech. But
coming off an off week to prepare.
I do see the Southern Miss finally won a game. Attaboy, Scotty Walden, all that pent up energy paid off.
Good for the animal road warrior there. Won his first game.
But speaking of homecomings, I guess we should talk about this one that I attended on Saturday. And oof, man. Like I said after the game, I didn't think I would see anything at ULM surprise me. I feel like I had a nice, scab built up over that. So it's, you could tell me literally anything, and I would just shrug and start making calls and writing a story. But I've never seen a game decided by instant replay from an ESPN Plus group until yesterday. That's what I saw. ULM came back from a 35-17 deficit to get within 5, and were driving to win the game late, only for Colby Suits to be stopped at the half-inch line as time expired, and the Warhawks lose 35-30. Oh boy!
Going back to that ESPN, replay thing. It's funny that you say that, because some of the conversation that came out of that Louisiana Tech Southern Miss opener was thank God this game was televised on ESPN2. Had it stayed on its original channel, which I believe was ESPN3 at the beginning of the year, that camera angle that they had in the back of the end zone that showed Griffin Hebert getting his foot down, they may not have had that camera angle. And Louisiana Tech would have lost that game because the ruling on the field was an incomplete pass.
Yeah. And we had that same discussion in the great Bob Anderson's press box last night when it came to that, because there was really no definitive angle to see. Like, you could not see where the ball was. I mean, Colby had clearly crossed the goal line before he was down, but there was just or at least not enough definitive evidence anyway to overturn that call, because you couldn't see where the ball was. You needed that pylon shot there on the side and didn't have it. But at the same time, looking back at this game,
did the offensive line get better?
A little bit. They reshuffled some things. TJ Fiola moved to left guard, and Evan Henry got his first career start at right guard. And that they only ran for 92 yards. You say only. I mean, that almost equaled their entire production through 3 games. But the good thing to see, and it was really the feel-good moment of that game, was Josh Johnson finally got to the end zone. Broke a 27-yard run, made a safety miss, all the things we're accustomed to seeing from Josh Johnson, and that crowd really popped when he got there, and good for him.
Good for Josh.
That and run for another one and catch his first touchdown. So they found ways to get him involved even when the run was going in. That would be a positive takeaway from this game, because I think ULM has somewhat of an offensive identity, or at least found some things they can do well, and that's let Kobe Suits throw it down the field. Not only did Josh Johnson make some catches, Josh Peterson was very involved. He ended up spraining an ankle that had him limited in the second half. But Tyler Lamb's another good tight end. He made some plays. He was the leading receiver. I think he was like 5 grabs, 66 yards, something like that. Suits also completed passes to 11 different receivers, so they're spreading it around too. So I mean,
whoa,
yeah. So I think because they really, I don't know how much they're going to do the tempo and push the tempo. Although they did look pretty good in the 2-minute offense when they were in it for about most of the fourth quarter. So we'll see if the tempos vary this week. I don't know if they're going to want to do that with Hugh Freeze and Liberty, because they go fast. But I do think that there are some makings of a very good vertical passing attack here, and that may be just what they have to do this year, unless the line either improves or it's just what it's going to be. We'll see. Now, when you have a finish as dramatic as that, you tend to focus on that finish, but that wasn't the reason they lost. Like, there was a bunch of plays that happened in that game that led to the outcome. And in my opinion, and the biggest ones were decided on special teams, especially in that. They're atrocious. ULM had 2 punts blocked, kind of got away from the first one unscathed, but then they gave up a touchdown, then had a punt block for a touchdown in the third quarter, and that really put them in a hole. And you're thinking, all right, this will be it. But to their credit, the old Warhawks rallied back to make this a game again. But those are some things that have to get fixed. Like, You had 2 punts blocked, you missed a PAT. Like this stuff can't keep occurring. And I get it. You know, when it comes to practice, you know, you got to get your offense and defense in, and with limited time and availability, the first thing that usually gets scrapped is special teams. And really, I mean, you can make the argument it may take longer to get special teams figured out because you're trying to figure out who will go down and cover these kicks, who doesn't mind hitting somebody, who will deal with the collisions and all that. So, I mean, special teams is something that has to get better. And how much it can get better, I think is debatable because, you know, people that bitch about special teams don't realize special teams are no different. They think like special teams is magic formula. Well, it's no different than offense or defense. You have to have depth to be good at special teams because either your 2s and 3s are playing on the special teams or you're playing your starters on special teams to match your 2 and 3s, and you can't really do that because if the starters are playing more snaps on special teams, somebody else has to play on offense and defense. That's just how this all works. It goes hand in hand. But other than that, positive sign of growth, as brutal of a finish as I've seen involving the ULM football team, but as positive, but also progress, very sign of progress, even in defeat. The win would have put the icing on the cake, but I think that Willie can take a lot of positives out of this game moving forward. And going to Lynchburg for an 11 a.m. kickoff on Saturday against a Liberty team that's looked pretty good. They beat Western Kentucky. And the opener, that's a team that was thought to be a favorite in CUSA East this year and very well still may be. So, you know.
Thundering herd now.
Do what?
Yes, I think that's the thundering herd now. You know, they won't play. I don't think Marshall's playing again until I think this coming weekend. So they hadn't had a game in like a couple of weeks after that Appalachian State game.
Yeah, they've had some cancellations.
Yeah.
But the disappointing thing, I guess, if you're looking at it for ULM, is you had 3 straight home games, which rarely happens. You would have liked to have gotten one of them, but you didn't. That's got to be disappointing. But, you know, some of these games are, you know, with some improvements, starting to look kind of some winnable, frisky, I guess you could say. The South Alabama, I mean, if the wheels come off that. So, I mean, that's a game you're going to have to go on the road. You got a chance to win. Georgia State has looked good, but then again, we'll see. I think they can compete there in Atlanta. It'll be a tough place to play. So Georgia State just blasted East Carolina, but they're still, yeah, that's a program in not good shape right now.
Did you see the Arkansas State Coastal Carolina score?
Yeah, all y'all saying, talking about COVID, well, it counts for both sides. Oh, okay, go tell that to the Red Wolves. They beat Kansas State and got friggin' housed by the Chanticleers. Housed, 52-21 housed. All right, like, this stuff matters. Why do we keep talking about it? Because it matters, okay? And again, I think I said this last week, unless you just think that practice is overrated, like, I don't know what to tell you at this point because it's showing up in these results.
Yeah. I mean, when you're missing, especially the offensive line is like got to be one of the more important positions, right? It's like if you've got 2 starting offensive linemen that have to sit for 2 weeks and are going to miss 2 games, those are big shoes to fill. And there's a reason. And I would say 95% of the cases, there's a reason why coaches have identified who their 5 best offensive linemen are. It's because they're head and shoulders better than who is right behind them on the depth chart.
And that's why they like to play 9 to 10 a game too.
Yes. So, you lose 1 offensive lineman and even 2. I mean, you're treading on some dangerous water because, I mean, that all that chemistry that is very important among the 5 on the offensive line is gone.
Mm-hmm.
You only have 3 or 4 days to try to piece something together like that, and it puts everyone in a bind. The coaching staffs, the kids that are having to step in and take those reps. I mean, it's different. You know, I mean, you've been to college football practices like I have. You know, what are the 2s doing? 65% of the time. You know, they're on the sideline. You know, because the coaches want to work their 1s who are going to play.
Mm-hmm.
So. Like it's like you said, like if people don't think practice is important, then pick up watching like competitive badminton on TV or something. Like I don't know.
It's probably important in that too. You got to get 10,000 hours. That's how it goes. But so we'll see. ULM's not going to be at home again until Halloween, because you've got this trip to Liberty, and then a bye week, and then going to aforementioned South Alabama Jaguars. So maybe a chance to get a win between now and then. And if this thing can keep improving, maybe there's like a midseason opportunity to win some games and see how it goes. It's still going to be tough down the stretch when you're closing with Louisiana Tech and Louisiana Lafayette and Troy as well. Keep forgetting that Troy reschedule looms December 5th. They're
You got to think by then Troy's going to have it figured out, because that's a program that always has it figured out.
Well, they've looked good. I mean, they played BYU and got housed, but as we explained earlier, there's really no shame in that this year, unless you can block them, and if you can.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah. So, I think Troy's in good shape. They housed Middle Tennessee early on, look good doing it as well. And
But Middle Tennessee is bad this year.
Yeah, they're having a rough go of it. Almost beat Western Kentucky in a rivalry game, but just having not a good go of it. Like we mentioned in our very first episode, that one's probably going to come open. We'll see what they do. If you're a Middle fan and you somehow stumbled upon this through the magic of the internet, and what magic that would be, I don't really know what to tell you about that. But I guess we'll close this looking around the Sun Belt a little bit before we get going. Talked about Georgia State, talked about East Carolina and Coastal Carolina, and Troy and South Al was postponed. Looking at this week, 3-0 Coastal Carolina at 3-0 Louisiana Lafayette.
Oh wow! So they're going to be at Cajun Field, huh?
Mm-hmm. We can talk about this being a preview of the Sun Belt Championship game, kind of. I mean, you look at
they're in the driver's seat.
Yeah, you look at the standings. I mean, everybody else is Georgia Southern has one loss. Georgia State has one loss. App and Troy have yet to play a conference game, but I mean, App's still good, but App's shown vulnerability.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not they've gotten their nose bloody, so they've been hurt. We'll see. ULM with Liberty. Ooh, and America's team, the Bears of Central Arkansas, going to Arkansas State.
America's darling, America's college football darling.
Mm-hmm. They're the Bears. You know what their women's
Conway,
team,
Arkansas, right?
Yeah, you know what their women's teams are called?
The Lady Bears.
The Sugar Bears.
You're lying. You're a liar.
Oh, go Google it.
What? No way. The
Mm-hmm.
Sugar Bears. Is it sugar or sugar?
AR. There's an R at the end.
There's an R at the end.
R, not an H.
Man, that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and then Troy will get back at it this week with Texas State. 1-3 Texas State.
How is Texas State 1-3? They have a better football team than that.
Yeah, so many close games and a tough schedule. I mean, they played SMU. They really let that UTSA one go. There's no other. And that's a weird one. And that's the one I can't understand because – but again, I guess it's just my gripe with Texas State in general. And that's, I call them ULM with money because they have as good of facilities and resources as anyone in this conference. They should be going to bowls. They should be competing each and every year. But there are a bunch of people there who have been there for decades, are set in their ways. They're not going to change. They're going to force everyone else to change them around what they institutionally do. And that's not win football games. No, and Jake Spavital seems to be fighting that pretty well, have a grip on things because they are competitive. Still not enough proof of concept to say whether they'll get over the hump or not. But I say all that to say I look at a job at UTSA, and it's just how is God's green earth is UTSA better than Texas State?
Alamo Dome, maybe? I'm not sure.
Well, let's just do the Pepsi challenge here, okay? Okay, and again, UTSA
is the city of San Antonio a more attractive city than San Marcos?
I mean, it's bigger, I guess, but okay, and I get it. UTSA is getting them $30, $40 some million in facilities upgrades, but you're playing the Alamo Dome. Nobody's been excited to play in the Alamo Dome since like 1995.
It's college football's version of Tropicana Field in the MLB.
Mm-hmm. Or you can go to San Marcos, conveniently located between Austin and San Antonio. They have a free-flowing body of water through campus where young ladies like to stand out and get tan, and get some sun on that. I mean, which one of these would you rather do? Okay, where would you rather be at? I mean, you're talking about from a recruiting standpoint, by all means. You know, and again, their facilities are good, their football stuff's good. So it's just confounding that a place that actually has a high ceiling, in my opinion, like Texas State, like is struggling to beat a commuter college.
What do you think what do you think a singular winning season would do for Texas State's football program? I mean, would it just be a huge shot in the arm?
Well, they've had one.
Okay.
Even since because they jumped. I think they were an independent one year. They were in the WAC till that fell apart, and then they got to the Sun Belt. They had a winning year, but the coach was Dennis Francione, and that's not to disparage Dennis Francione. Roll Tide. Because regardless of how it ended in Tuscaloosa, Dennis Francione has won some football games. It's turned around some messes. TCU football is not in the Big 12 without Dennis Francione.
Yeah.
But at this point in his career, I mean, it's like asking your goofy uncle to entice recruits and lead young men. It just wasn't going to work, and that's why he ended up getting fired. But we'll see. Maybe they get it together. That is one of the jobs, one of the more perplexing situations in the Group of Five, at least in my opinion. But you say everybody says it for years. They've got too much to not be good. Well, we'll see. But before we get out of here, you got anything to add, my friend?
No, just as this week plugs along, we'll have more more high school coverage, leading up to this coming weekend, and
they'll probably there will be more game changes as we learned this week. And I guess we should let the folks know this. This is what we're going to do. We have a composite schedule each week that I put together that will be on the website. I will tweet it out this week. I just realized, barring something huge like Sterlington and Neville agreeing to play, which we're going to get to watch November 6th, I can't do full stories for all these cancellations and reschedules and who's looking and who's got somebody, or else I'm just not going to get anything done.
Right.
So it's going to go on the master schedule, and we will keep it as up to date as possible, and you can find those things there.
Yeah, we'll go into the composite, we'll update it, we'll publish it, and then we'll throw it on our Twitters and be like, look, there's been a game change, find out what it is here. It's just the easiest and quickest way. It's more efficient for us. We've got plenty on our plates. Who knows? You could always deal with college football, COVID-19 cancellations. Like we literally wake up every morning and not really know what we're going to do that day.
Yeah. Well, what is going to happen today?
But yeah, obviously, follow up on the fallout from Provo, Utah with Louisiana Tech. Going to figure out where you start to really get that run game going, because that's the one thing missing for Louisiana Tech and its offense right now is that they can get Justin Henderson and Israel Tucker back going and get them 100% and have them breaking long runs and providing some offensive balance. It's going to be big for this team, as they welcome in UTEP this coming weekend. I'll be honest, I think top to bottom Tech's a better team, and I think Tech will win this game. So maybe it'll be a perfect opportunity for them to shore up some things in the run game for them. And then Friday night we'll be doing it again with our Friday night football coverage, and Saturday I'll be at the Joe covering a football game for the Louisiana Tech and UTEP. And so yeah, plenty of stuff coming down the pipe this week. So be sure to just stay in tune with the newstar.com and Adam's Twitter page, as well as myself. Just stay on top of everything as we're trying to as well.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see y'all next week.
Take care.